All right already. I'll talk Sunbelt basketball. They did what to the Sunbelt basketball tournament? It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we will get to the football, which we were going to start with, but the Sunbelt announced a new basketball format. Everybody's in. They play 7 straight days. There's no off days. Let me see if they play that 7 straight days. We have it here. All right, I'm going to block myself out, I guess. It starts Tuesday, March 4th, and finishes Monday, March 10th. So let's do a little background here on this before we get into it. All right, so the issue was before I got to the Sun Belt, my first tournament was when the Cajuns won it in 2014. All right. And at that point in time, they did the same thing that they're doing now, made the top 2 seeds straight to the semis. As Kevin Foote from the Acadiana Advocate explained to me, Middle Tennessee would always be the number 1 seed prior to that season and always lose early and never get to the NCAA tournament. So the Sun Belt is trying to make sure that their best team gets to the NCAA tournament so they win a game or 2, which is what JMU did last year. However, we have an issue with this tournament when everybody was there the last few years with Pensacola, is that the early teams, either you play a game, but you get a day off. So South Alabama, when they lost to the Cajuns in 23, they won their first game, but then had a day off, and they took down the number 1 seed Southern Miss. That's not a whole heck of a lot of advantage for Southern Miss, to be straight with you, right? It's just not, right? South Alabama gets all the advantage. They played their last game on a Saturday. Then they're playing a few days later. They get used to the arena. They've got their timing back, and Southern Miss doesn't. And so Southern Miss lost the game. And I believe it's happened other times as well, because it's just hard after that being the case. Basketball teams are used to a few days off. Happens in Major League Baseball as well, when those wild card teams always win those division series, because baseball players only used to a day off, maybe 2, right? And when it's the All-Star break and everybody's had it off, then it's even. But when one team has played and the other one hasn't played for a week, that's an issue. And so that was absolutely an issue at the Sun Belt Conference Tournament the last few years. These teams were getting upset by teams that had played. So getting the bye and the double bye wasn't necessarily all that big of an advantage, especially when a team got their legs underneath them and then got a day off. Also, you're not going to be tired after one game. All right, when the Cajuns beat South Alabama had played their 4th game, and the Cajuns had played one less. The Cajuns were better, and it was a good ball game. And, by that time, it's a little bit different. At the same time, in that same tournament, Texas State, they were one of the first 4 seeds. They went all the way and played Louisiana until the semifinals. And, they had a nice run. Louisiana was tough. But here was the thing that got me, is that somehow we've gone from playing a potential of 5 games. If Texas State had beaten the Cajuns, they would have played their 5th game to get to the NCAA tournament in the Sunbelt Conference tournament, right? How are they playing 7 now? Am I missing that? Let me see if we can do this together, if we can make this out together, because that's what it is, right? If you win one game, 2 games, 3 games, 4 games, 5 games, 6 games, 7 games. So I'm missing the math. I talked to a couple of people that follow this stuff. They haven't delved into it as deeply as I had hoped just yet. Did talk to a coach in the Sunbelt, and he's like, because because these teams are getting these buys, that's eliminating some teams that you're not playing. I guess I don't understand it, because if you go to let's see if we can add it. If you go to the other ones, it's not in there. So, all right. Again, there's only 5 games. The 23 and 24 was only 5 games and a day off. So I don't really get it. I certainly know what the Sunbelt is trying to do, trying to get their best teams to the Sunbelt, or trying to get it to the NCAA tournament. Still going to have the same issue, because let's go back and look. All right. Here are the number 1 seeds. They're not going to play till Sunday, March 5th. You know when their last games are? Their last games are going to be the Saturday beforehand. I'm sorry. It's not the 5th. I don't have my glasses on. It's Sunday, March 9th. I'm sorry. Sunday, March 9th. You know when their last games are in the regular season? Saturday. Is it the 1st? Yeah. Saturday the 1st. They have a whole week without playing. They're going to run into the same issue, because the teams, the first 2 seeds are getting all the way to the semifinals, which is great. You only have to win 2 games. But the seeds right before that get to the quarters. So someone's going to have, their legs underneath them, where you have not had a chance to play a game in over a week. You're going from Saturday to to the next Sunday. That's a lot. So I understand what the Sunbelt is trying to do. They did have to tweak it because the off day wasn't fair. I guess you could just take the off day out of there. Somehow it has to do with the women's and the men's all playing, but I think they're all playing at the same spot. It's going to be 4 games a day for a while, but you could have tweaked it without the off day. You just take the off day out of there. Then it doesn't matter. And those teams are playing sooner. But it has to do with the men's and the women's tournament. I think the championships last year were the same day. Anyways, that was kind of a bombshell. That came out on Thursday afternoon. And I'm sitting there looking at it. Someone's going to have to play 7 games to win this. Not the 2 top seeds. But, and the chances that somebody, wins 4 games is slim. But Texas State played in their 4th game. They didn't win it. But Texas State played 4 games. South Alabama played 4 ball games. So not impossible to do that. I don't know about winning 5 or 6 ball games. That's going to be amazing. UConn did that a few years ago, right? Didn't they win 5 ball games? That was the Big East tournament, right? They were the first team to ever do that. So not impossible, but not very likely. I'm not sure it's happened much since. That's for sure. So new basketball format. I understand what they're doing. I'm not sure having kids play 7 games in 7 days is the way to go, but they are kids, right? They're young men and young women, for that fact of the matter. But we'll wait to see how that comes about. Maybe now is the good time to see if we can get the commissioner, Keith Gill, to come on the podcast, talk about the football season, talk about the college football playoff, and what went into the changes, for the basketball tournament. Who determined it and who voted on it and stuff like that. Just kind of get that background on it. Not necessarily names, but generally was it the ADs, was it the presidents, see what it was, how they came to an agreement. All right, let's take a time out. We'll come back. Georgia State off to Stores. I actually did know who the UConn football coach was after I checked, but I did know who it was. We'll talk about that as we'll see if Georgia State can get something going against the UConn Huskies. We'll do that after I tell you about 5 Hour Energy. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime, which is why they've created Stan the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel. The energy shot made just for super fans like us. The fans who are first in the parking lot and are last to leave, we see you. We're going to talk about, we know what else gave me a bit of fan fuel this week. It was the Raging Cajuns, Tyrone Lewis. Big interception. Got that tipped pass from Kyron Mims. That sealed the ball game for the Raging Cajuns over Texas State, and they are now in the driver's seat in the Sunbelt Western Division. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're prepping for the big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stan the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot is here to help you keep fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with a 5 Hour Energy. Available on 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide. That did come in handy after that late night, Tuesday night into Wednesday, that 5 Hour Energy, and actually had one again on Thursday. Yep, I sure did. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We do have a football game tonight. Georgia State heading to UConn. It is Jim Mora Jr., and I did know that. I obviously forgot about it. But I did know that because Jim Mora Jr. has turned UConn around. Didn't have a great season last year. Went to a bowl game a couple of years ago. I mean, they went from god awful, like ULM before Bryant Vincent got there awful, to respectability. They went to a bowl game. They lost to Marshall in a bowl game, 28-14. They went 1-4 to begin with, and then finished the regular season 6-6. Lost to Marshall, so finished 6-7. Last year wasn't a good season for UConn, but they are 5-3 this year, and they're hosting Georgia State on Friday night. Georgia State 2-5, have just not grown since that win against Vandy. They did put up 26 points against App State last week, but after they scored 36 against Vandy, they put up 21 against Georgia Southern, 14 against Old Dominion, 20 against Marshall, and 26 in a losing effort against App State. So 26 was the most points they've put up since they beat Vanderbilt. We find out Vanderbilt is better than we thought, but Vanderbilt has been able to build on their big win over Alabama, although they just lost to Texas. That's a good football team. But Georgia State has not. This game is on CBS Sports Network. It is a 7 p.m. Eastern time game, 6 p.m. Central time. But maybe, just maybe, Georgia State has found their quarterback. Zach Gibson, 41. Let me see what he is. Hold on. That's what he is total. That's not what he was last week against App State. 16-22 and 1 interception. Had a rating of 161, but a QBR of 36. I'm trying to figure that one out. Okay. Did not rush for very much at all. Maybe that was it. But maybe they found their quarterback. We'll see if Christian VR goes back in, but I would not be surprised if it is Zach Gibson. He would seem to be the guy for Georgia State. Tough to win on the road. UConn, let's check that out here quickly. UConn's 5-3, as we mentioned. Let's see how they've done at home. All right. They lost to Maryland 50-7 on the road. They beat Merrimack, different level of football, 63-17. They lost at Duke 26-21. That's a nice effort. They actually beat FAU. That's Cam Fancher, 48-14 at home. They beat Buffalo 47-3. They beat Temple 29-20. They lost to Wake 23-20, and they just beat Rice 17-10. They have not had a lot of road games. They do have some road games coming up after this one. In fact, Georgia State is their last home game. So they have been at home. I mean, FAU 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 6. Georgia State knows all about that. And they've done a good job. They have lost to Wake at home by 3. But they've done a good job of winning all those home games. They have not played much on the road at all. Georgia State, on the other hand, has, again, they haven't played on the road much at all either, right? They played at Marshall and lost 35-20. They had a shot against App State, couldn't get that done. They lost 33-26. Maybe there was some growth with Zach Gibson. We'll see. It's going to be tough to pick Georgia State. That line is down to 8.5, I think I saw. I think it's 8.5. And so I'm probably going to take UConn in that. I would like to see Georgia State make an effort, but it is down to 8.5. All right. Another big ball game this week, and the line has absolutely flipped 100%. Again, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. App State hosting Old Dominion. This is homecoming. Moves moved following the storm. Needed a little bit more time to prep. Old Dominion is favored by 3. This is a huge ball game for Old Dominion. Again, going on the road is hard. When this game came out, I thought ODU would be favored, and yet App State was favored when this line came out. They were favored by 3. That's how much it's flipped. That's a big line movement, huge line movement. And so we'll see. App still didn't play very well against Georgia State, to be honest with you. They have not played well this season for whatever reason. And Old Dominion is really tough defensively. And now we're going to see if the Colton Joseph show can go on the road. So that's going to be a big opportunity. I'm going to take ODU. I'm going to take ODU to win and cover. If it's a 3-point line, I really think ODU is going to do a good job of shutting down App State's offense, and I think ODU is going to win the football game. All right, let's take a timeout. We still have South Alabama and Georgia Southern, Marshall and Monroe, and Troy and Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina, not so sure on their quarterback just yet. We will do that after I tell you about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. So close to 1,600. Recording this, I looked at it. We had 1,599. Let's see if I wake up Friday morning to see 1,600 and 600. All right. A little bit more would be nice, but almost got all 100 for the month. So close. Really appreciate all the support. Sort of the crazy basketball tournament gives us something to talk about and chew on. That's for sure. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's talk Coastal Carolina for a second. Tim Beck would not say which quarterback was going to play. They've had a week off. Ethan Vasco just straight struggled against the Cajuns. Noah Kim came in, made it a ball game. Cajuns needed a big play to Terrence Carter, the tight end, to finish things off and maybe cover. But Tim Beck was not forthcoming with who was going to play. I would presume it's going to be Noah Kim, transfer from Michigan State, right? And so we will see that. That is an interesting ball game because Coastal Carolina is favored by 4.5. Now it's down to 3.5. Troy, again, they're just not a very good football team right now. But did they turn the corner? Not turn the corner, get to the corner against Arkansas State. Still trying to figure out that final play of the game where Caldwell throws it into the end zone. Matthew Caldwell throws it in the end zone when it looked like he had a running back to throw it to set up the game-winning field goal. I give it up to Jared Parker for protecting his player. He was like, I called that play. We're going for the win. We have a shot for the win. Although having said that, if it wasn't there, we should have checked down and set up for a field goal. All right. I'm going to take Troy on this one. By the way, Coastal Carolina let their offensive coordinator go. So there's a lot of influx there too. I think we saw Troy take the next step. And remember, Matthew Caldwell, although has played a lot lately, Goose Crowder's hurt and is done for the season. So Matthew Caldwell finally getting those reps. They're playing at home. We have seen some empty seats at Troy. We'll see if the fans want to come out and support them. So I'm picking Troy in this one to pull off the minor upset. All right. Let's see what else we got in the Sunbelt. So we got UConn. I got UConn. I got Old Dominion, and I got Troy. So I'm kind of all over the place with this one. All right. You got UL Monroe going to Marshall, still 10.5 points. Marshall still has a shot at the Sunbelt East. They're a half a game back, so they still have a shot. Georgia Southern and Old Dominion are both 3-1, and both have shots at losing. That's not for sure, right? South Alabama is a big favorite over Georgia Southern. We'll get to that. We'll wrap it up with that one. And ODU is favored, but by 3. Marshall wins. Those two teams have 2 losses, and Marshall is alone at 3-1. So Marshall is very much in this race in the Sunbelt East. I want to see what most interests me in this one, and I can't think of a better word than maturity. So we're going to go with that to see if ULM matures. It's not about necessarily winning the ball game. I want to see them compete because that game spun out of control against South Alabama, right? And that's after South Alabama fumbled at the 1-yard line. And ULM got a big run to get them some breathing room, but couldn't do anything after that. And then the snap on the punt goes out of the end zone. Then South Alabama started coming back. So they were even winning at halftime was ULM, 17-12. And then it got ugly. So I want to see if ULM can compete. All right. I'm definitely picking Marshall to win this. I think ULM is going to cover. I'm liking that hook. That at that point in time, usually the hook is not great. I'm liking that 10.5. All right. I'm going to take the 10.5. I think Marshall's going to cover. But this is going to show me, because they've had a week off, if they've matured a little bit. Being able to handle adversity kind of deal. And if things don't go your way, kind of settle down. All right. That's what I mean by that. Doing it on the road and doing it in Huntington ain't going to be easy. So I got Marshall winning and I got ULM covering. All right. Let's wrap it up with South Alabama taking on a Georgia Southern. This is not a great matchup for Georgia Southern. This was, I thought it was 6.5 point favorite. It is. South Alabama's favored by 6.5. South Alabama 3-1. They're a game behind the Cajuns, and they still play the Cajuns, so they're still very much in this race. They're 4-4 overall. Georgia Southern 5-3. They're 3-1 overall, coming off a really ugly loss last week. This ball game is on ESPNU, 7:30 Eastern Time, 6:30 Central. Georgia Southern got beat up by Old Dominion. I mean, that was the Colton Joseph show, right? And so now they're playing South Alabama, and South Alabama has won 2 in a row. Could have been 3. They lost to Arkansas State in the game. They did not play well. Probably the worst game they've played this season. All right. They let the North Texas game get away. Gio Lopez didn't play against Ohio. They put up 87 against Northwestern State. They blew out App. LSU is LSU. And they just didn't play well on the road against Arkansas State. Kind of a workmanlike win against Troy, 25-9. They did cover. And they did blow out Monroe in the second half with 34 unanswered points in the second half. I think South Alabama is going to win this game. The reason it's a bad matchup for Georgia Southern, and I guess we could take some offense out. Well, let me see. No, they're doing all the ball games. Well, let me see. We got the stats here real quick. I think we have a little bit of time. Let me see if we got the stats for just Sunbelt games. I don't know if they have those available. Conference stats only. I want to see that because if you do overall stats, defensively, Georgia Southern. Okay. Okay. That is it. Okay. So overall, Georgia Southern defense is 9th overall. Rushing wise, they give up 185 yards rushing overall. All right. Total defense, they're last, giving up 457 yards a game. The problem with that is that, they have Boise State and Ole Miss on the schedule where they gave up 108 points. All right. So now let's do just the conference and see where they are. So they are overall last defensively in yards per game. All right. Rushing wise, they are 9th in the conference per game. All right. Now let's just do conference only stats. And that changes in a big way. Let's see. Total, they're 7th overall. So they go from last to 7th. And rushing wise, they're 4th. All right. That's much better. All right. Because they're giving up 138 yards compared to 185 yards. Because that includes the running back from Boise State. That makes it a little bit better. I'm still going to take South Alabama. That's a great challenge for Georgia Southern. South Alabama leads the conference in rushing yards at 216 a game. We were looking at Georgia Southern overall, giving up 185 per game. If you could break it down home and road, that may make a difference as well. They have one on the road at Nevada. They did beat Georgia State on the road, 38-21, and they just got hammered by Old Dominion, though, on the road. This is a ball game. This is a big ball game. All right. This is a huge ball game. Can Georgia Southern, stay with Old Dominion? And can South Alabama, win their 3rd straight and, be on the verge of a bowl game and, put themselves in a spot where, again, they're still in the race. The winner of this ball game is still very much in the race for their respective crowns, right? I mean, Georgia Southern's going to need help. They're going to need ODU to lose, and South Alabama doesn't need help. They are 1 game back, but they still play the Cajuns. So this is a big ball game. I'm going to take South Alabama, go a little homerish with this one. I think they probably win by a touchdown. I don't think it's good. And that's where that hook the other way comes in. At 7, it's not quite as inviting. That 6.5 makes it so. All right. Everybody have a fantastic weekend. I don't have the weekend off like I did last week. So we'll get these. We'll watch as much as we can. What is at night? Let me see what's at night here on the Sunbelt show. I'm working all weekend. Georgia State's at night, so we can watch that Friday night. South Alabama, Georgia Southern, ESPNU. That's at night. And the other ones are during the day. I'll be back for the second half of the Coastal Carolina Troy ball game and probably see a lot of the Monroe Marshall second half. Old Dominion and App are at 2:30. I might be able to see the end of see the fourth quarter of that one. So everyone have a great weekend. Let me know what you think about the basketball tournament format. I know what they're trying to do. I know what they wanted to eliminate. Couldn't they have just eliminated that without, with just taking off the off day? I'm not sure how we went from needing to win 5 games to needing to win 7. My understanding is that there would be no math. There's math. So I don't get it. But it's something that to not really worry about until March. But this would be a good opportunity to see if the commissioner is available sometime next week. All right. All right. Again, thanks so much for tuning in. Almost 1,600. You guys did it. We're like 1,599. Really appreciate all the support. Please have a safe and fun football weekend. We will talk to you again on a Monday. You've been listening and watching Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.